We really have some of the least capable, worst people in the country leading the country. And it is hard to wrap your mind around how we got here. I don't know if you struggle with this at all, but I'll be honest with you, I do. I have these moments. I try to get away from politics when I'm not doing TV or radio, just because I do so much of it. I like to make sure I'm doing other things, just step away every now and then. But sometimes I'll be sitting at home. Maybe I'll be browsing the news on my phone. Maybe I'll be watching The First, all the great programming on The First, but just catching up on some news. And I'll think to myself, I just have this private moment where I'll say, how is it possible that a country with 330 million people, a very educated nation, remember, our literacy rates and things like that, very educated nation, 330 million people, and it's Joe Biden and Jill Biden and Kamala Harris, they're running the country? What did we do? And I don't want to get too heavy, and I'm not going to get sidetracked on this really here, but we did elect these people. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that so crazy? I mean, if you don't count the whole cheating thing, but we're not going into that right now. So we got the three stooges. Let's just talk about the man at the top for a moment. Just watch Joe and Jill.
And now I'm happy to take some questions, and I'm told I should start with AP Zeke Miller. Zeke, you have a question? Didn't recognize you with the mask on. I apologize.
Why does the President of the United States of America, why is he told to call on anybody? He is the commander-in-chief. He's the boss. He's the guy at the top. Why is he being told to call on anybody? Who is telling him? Why aren't any of these reporters out there who brag about speaking truth to power, why aren't they curious about who exactly is telling the president who to call on? That's one. Two, he has no cards. Our president is so incapable of basic thought. They not only tell him who to call on, they give him note cards so he'll make sure he doesn't mess up the name and publication. This one is Zeke Miller. That's who they told me to call on. That's the president of the United States of America. And you know what sucks? It's kind of a running gag that Jill takes care of Joe. Is that putting it nicely? Takes care of Joe, covers up for Joe. Remember when they first got elected? Well, I say they because, we'll get to that in a second. When he first got elected and they did all these interviews together, they were always sitting together, and no one elected Jill Biden to anything. Nothing. You're the first lady. Go read to some school kids or something. Why are you doing interviews with Joe Biden? He was the one elected, not you. And it sure seems like she's running things, doesn't it?
I tell you what, I would like to learn it. You see that? They'll come again.
Remember when she scolded him? Remember he's standing in front of the troops, the commander-in-chief, he's standing in front of the troops. And I realized it was playful, but remember when she scolded him about not paying attention?
I don't want you to stand through. Joe, pay attention.
I'm sorry, I don't think that's funny. Why is our president such an incapable, bumbling fool that he has to get scolded like a child by his wife? And let's talk about his wife for a moment because, she's part of this Three Stooges thing. And no, I'm not pulling any punches on it. I have some very strong thoughts about Jill Biden. How could you let your husband go through that? Joe Biden, I don't know what's wrong with him. Senile, Alzheimer's, dementia. I know the people I talk to who are very sharp on these things say the dementia thing is very, very real. It's why you don't see him at night. That's why he walks the way he walks with that weird shuffle and the stiff arms. Look, I'm not going to go into all that, but let's set aside whatever the specifics are, what Joe Biden has. He has something, even if it's just old age, but he has something. Now, let's remember, Joe Biden is the president of the United States of America right now. That is the most stressful job on the planet. If it's not, it's one of them. You ever look at any of those old internet pictures where they do the before and after of when someone was president? This is George Bush before. This is George Bush after. Barack Obama, this is Obama before. It's Obama after. And they look like they've aged about 50 years in the 8 years they're president. That's because when you're president of the United States of America, the stress never stops. And stress ages you worse than cigarettes. The stress never stops. It's a 24-hour-a-day job. You got to give a speech here. We're going to do a fundraiser here. You got to sign this executive order here. You got to meet with Congress. We need you to fly to Europe. You got to fly to Japan. You got to drone strike these kids in Afghanistan, Joe. Don't think I forgot about that. You have to do it's nonstop all the time. Do you know people who have dementia and older people when they're struggling with things like this? You understand they need rest and calm and care, right? Don't even play soothing music for them. They need to be in a calm, restful, stress-free environment. So back to Jill Biden. You're his wife. How are you allowing this to go on? These are Joe Biden's twilight years. Not wishing any harm on the man, but he's 80 and Father Time's undefeated. These are his twilight years. You're Jill Biden, and you're letting your husband spend his twilight years killing himself? Is that too far? Because, as much as I dislike Joe Biden, I don't want any harm to come to the man. This job has the potential to kill him. You have an old guy going through it like that, and you're putting him in the meat grinder of the office of the presidency? And Jill, I've got to ask, why? Is it that nice to be First Lady? Is that it? How am I supposed to take it any other way? And remember, Jill and Kamala Harris hate each other. They absolutely despise each other. And we have Jack Posobiec coming up soon to discuss that, but they hate each other. And for people who want to know why, where all that began, well, there was this little moment in the debates, and apparently Jill did not let it go.
It's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing. And, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me.
So here's the thing. We think about these people as just TV characters, because you just watch them on TV. But they're flesh and blood human beings. When you stand up on stage in front of Jill Biden and call Joe Biden a Klansman, Jill Biden is going to remember that. I doubt Joe remembers it because Joe doesn't remember what he had for breakfast, but Jill Biden is absolutely going to be remembering that. And Jill Biden and Kamala Harris apparently are now at each other's throats. And let's pause. And speaking of throats, let's talk about Kamala Harris. I think we forget about this probably because we want to. I know I do. I talk about politics for a living and I forget about this little tidbit. She's very likely going to be president of the United States soon. All the rumors in D.C., and all I have are rumors. I don't have anything concrete. I don't know that anyone knows, but the rumors are they're going to toss poor Joe out the back of the White House right after the midterms. Kamala Harris is about to be president of the United States of America. President Dome. Can you believe that's where we are as a country? I tell you, it is going to be a rocky 4 years. Hey, thanks so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and like and subscribe. You heard me. Like it, subscribe. You'll get a lot more of it and a lot more of me.